We are here revolutionizing news with your non-party affiliated host and three different political parties joining the discussion. Hit that thumbs up button, join the movement, hit the subscribe, and if you want to participate, put your answers to the topic questions in the comments below. Let's hear from our guests. Topic number 2 today, COVID has been raging for at least a year now. Opinions and science have been clashing, and politics just isn't helping, Keith. Where are we now as a country versus this pandemic, and how are your political leaders responding?
Well, first off, politics, I don't know that politics ever help. Where are we now in regards to science? I'm still confused. There's the basics. I think of it in a lot in terms of nutritional science, where we can agree on the fundamentals and the 10,000 foot level. But when we try to get detailed, everybody breaks down into bickering so quickly that it becomes useless. So stay away from people if you can. If you're outside and far away from people, I'm fine not having a mask around, and me or the other person. If we get close, shields up. If you're inside, mask up. Fine. I this multiple mask thing has, I don't even know what that's about besides some really interesting memes. But you know, I'm just not sure we have any more detailed knowledge than we did a year ago. And even then, we've reversed course on several things in the meanwhile. And I'm just waiting for the vaccine to go mainstream so we can go back to life.
Pod, looking at this whole topic now, reading the question that we had sent to you, where are we now as a country versus this pandemic, and how are your political leaders responding?
Well, I think we're making progress. They're with commercials on TV, going down the highway, you see the signs flashing, keep a safe distance, mask up, things like that. But politically, I just did some research on the state's response with the vaccines. And the first 10, 8 out of the 10 states that are responding the best are run by Republicans. Here in Pennsylvania, we were 49th last week. I mean, it's just so shoddy on how they're doing this. And it makes you laugh that Dr. R. Levine was our health secretary and Feld, the state, as our governor is, got promoted to the assistant health secretary for the country now. And that is just scary because, I'm living it in this state, and I can drive 20 minutes away into West Virginia, where they're ranked number 2 as distribution. So,
Well, my question, Keith or Pod, is what did she fail? What failed? That's the big question. You said that they failed.
Well,
Your health secretary failed. What is that?
Well, I think Dr. Levine failed by the rollout, how they rolled out the vaccine. Some states, I've heard about Florida, that you can go to the supermarket and do this. I mean, they're picking and choosing here in Pennsylvania, who gets it. They set these levels like 1A. I mean, actually here in Pennsylvania, if you're obese and a smoker, you fit in the top group to get the vaccine. So you could be bypassing the senior citizens. I mean, if you have poor habits, you're being, what's the word?
Selected. They're being selected.
Yeah, you're being, so it's the selection process, and every week, every day it changes. So I think Dr. Levine failed in that way. Instead of just opening up saying, if you're 65 and older, boom, start hitting everybody, not picking select within that group. And I agree. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So Angela, moving to the question, right? To keep all of this concise so that the viewer gets the most information out of you. Opinions and science are on clashing sides. Opinion, science, and politics are on clashing sides. Where are we as a country versus this pandemic? And how are the political leaders, and specifically yours, handling or responding to this?
Well, our political leaders have had mixed responses. I think that we've seen the best responses come out of South Dakota and Florida, where political leaders have allowed people to have more autonomy and make informed decisions. There have been counties and cities, municipalities within Florida that have made different quarantine and lockdown measures than the Governor DeSantis, but I still appreciate that people have had some say in it. I think we're being treated like political pawns, and we're not treated as if we have any free will or autonomy. And it seems as though many of our political leaders, especially in California, Gavin Newsom, and especially in New York, Andrew Cuomo, have treated us with absolute contempt, and they're completely out of touch, like Marie Antoinette. I have no idea if the vaccine will be effective at this point enough to make a difference. There's been so much talk about viral strain mutations and why couldn't we have just been unlocked and let people get it early on so that we could have stronger natural immunity. That's coming from one side of the aisle. You know, people on the other side are still screaming that it's terrifying and we're killing grandmas and how can we even think to do that? It seems that you can find any sort of scientific article about this topic that will bolster your political views. And that's a real shame. But I think that, you know, whatever our leaders say, we need to be able to make our own informed decisions and choices. If you want to
But
stay
don't
home
they
and
have an
isolate,
obligation to keep us safe and healthy? I
no,
mean, this is
no.
this is a pandemic.
Absolutely not. The purpose of government is to protect our rights. It's not to provide a social safety net. It's not to roll out a national vaccine program. It's not to lock us down for our own good. You know, was the Gulag Archipelago instituted to protect the rest of Soviet Russia from political dissidents? I don't believe so. But you could certainly spin it that way if you're maniacal enough and you have enough contempt for humanity to think that you can lock everyone up and tell them it's for their own good. Some of us need to work. Some of us have mental health issues. Some of us need to go out and live our lives. You know, maybe grandma doesn't want to be locked up in isolation for her few remaining years. Maybe she'd rather see her children and grandchildren and die. And that's her call. It's not up to us. And we also can't predict the future. And we can't, far be it from me to tell you what's going to happen in your future, regardless of your age, your health, your societal status. No one should be telling someone else what their future holds. We are all individuals and we make our own future.
I know the viewers are probably going to bash me for picking on you, Angela. I just want to get more information out of you just because there aren't libertarian leaders. So as of right now, elected into office as governors or as Congress or president. So the real question is, and one, that's a big shame. You know, I really hope that people do see other alternatives that are out there. I think that that's healthy for everybody to understand different positions that are out there. But that being said, from the libertarians, right, you don't have a position in there, but it looks like you are preferring Governor DeSantis. I mean, he's had a lot of people die under his watch. I mean, Florida, I think, is number 3 or 4 on total death count in the United States. So, I mean, under his political spectrum, there are deaths just as there are in every other state.
Sure. I'm sure he's behind California, though, which has been more aggressively locked down than almost anywhere except Michigan and New York. What that shows me is that locking people down doesn't work. You can't point to any statistical correlation with any of this madness and make sense of it. Everything is all over the place. And we do have a Riverside County supervisor who's a libertarian, and his name is Jeff Hewitt, and he has fought very hard to keep his county as open as possible. He's one of 5 county supervisors, and Riverside County has not been as roughed up as Los Angeles. And I think that, you know, it's important to let people make their own economic decisions too, right? The more people are locked up and dependent upon government welfare, guess what? There's no promotions on welfare. There's no promotions on UBI. There's no promotions in stimulus checks. Some of us would rather take risks and try to better our futures, not just for ourselves, but for our children's and for our community. And we all deserve the right to do that.
Keith, how do you respond to Angela's position on allowing people to take risks?
Well, I would say that UBI, I think, deserves more experimentation on smaller scales, but increasingly wide scales. And it would enable people to take risks because, you know, maybe I would like to speak my mind more freely online. Maybe I would like to start a company in some new area that doesn't have a lot of companies in it. And I shouldn't feel like I'm going to be utterly destitute if I fail. And also the health insurance thing's huge. We're all basically one wrong diagnosis away from losing everything in this country. So we should have some type of guaranteed floor if we want to encourage risk taking. If we don't, then yeah, I mean, honestly, the role of government, in my opinion, is whatever we damn well say it is, because we're the people who are ostensibly running it. Obviously, there is a more cynical take in that.
Yeah, but
if
your
we
party
decide
has been now accused by Angela of really locking up the harshest to save lives. I mean, has that position between California and New York saved lives?
Well, she made a good point. It's tough to say. There's the statistical analysis going to be complicated. It's going to have to come down to isolating variables and seeing which ones are different, controlling for them, and then trying to tease out patterns. Right now, the situation's obviously still in flux. Every time we thought we had some type of pattern that was discernible to the naked eye, which is probably your first clue that it is not, it would disappear within the next month. For example, about 8 months ago, I think it was, the United States was off the charts in terms of new infections, and Europe was doing great, and they're looking at us calling us idiots. And then 3 months later, the situation was reversed. So we don't know exactly what's going to work and what's not. Some of the most heavily locked down and masked areas, such as Los Angeles, are also suffering the worst. So there's a lot of temptation to take the most simplistic, convenient position whenever a favorable factoid happens to hurdle your direction. And I think if you are truly in favor of science, which I know is the something the cool kids like to shout nowadays on social media, science, facts, then shut up and apply the scientific method. As I'm tired of hearing the word science come out of people's mouths and then watching them deliberately ignore things that cut against their argument.
Pod,
sorry,
we've
I'm
got
not
a
sure
minute
if I answered
left.
the question or ranted.
No, it's okay. Pod, we've got a minute left. Let the audience know what your final take is.
My final take is to just let people do what they want to do. Let them make their own decisions. We need, like everything else, we need less government. Anytime they take control of something, they screw it up. And it's just sad to see the small business owners suffering that will never come back. Stores have been in families for generations, yet Walmarts and the Home Depots and the Lowe's and all them are thriving. 500 people can go into that store, but we can't allow 20 people into a restaurant.
But I push back on Angela. I push back on Keith. I'm going to push back on you. Do people have the wherewithal to keep themselves safe during a pandemic? I mean, if they could open up stadiums right now for the Super Bowl, I'm sure it would sell out. People want to go to these sporting events, but is that healthy? I mean, do we just let health go? I mean, I read a very interesting article the other day that said a healthy person has 1,000,000 wants, a sick person has one want. They only want to be healthy, right? So, I mean, during this pandemic, do we just forget about that? Do we just shut down the economy and let people get healthy?
No, we don't shut it down. And I think, in your example of going to the Super Bowl, you're going to have people going there that want to make that decision freely. And there's going to be people that are going to say, you know what, there's too many people in there. I'm not going to go. So I think there's enough information out there that people can make an informed decision on their own. And they should be allowed to do that.
Okay. Well, we appreciate our guests. We appreciate you, the viewer. Hit your comments in the comment section below, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.